Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to have you here with me today. Today, we're diving into a world that might sound a little intimidating at first: English grammar. But don't worry, I'm here to show you how simple and rewarding it can be to understand. Grammar is like the skeleton of language. Once you learn the basics, it makes everything else so much easier and clearer. Together, we'll walk through some important grammar basics that will make your English smoother and more confident. Ready? Let's begin. Prepositions. Let's start with something that can be a bit tricky for English learners: prepositions. Prepositions are small words like at, in, on, and for that connect different parts of a sentence. They help you describe where something is, when something happens, or how it's related to something else. Learning these is essential to sounding natural in English. So let's dive into a few examples. In is often used when talking about being inside a place or something that surrounds you. For example, I am in the house, or she lives in New York. On is often used when something is touching or attached to a surface. Think about this: the book is on the table, or the painting is on the wall. At is usually used to talk about specific places or events. We might say, I am at the library, or he is at the party. Learning these basic prepositions helps you talk about locations and events in a way that's clear and natural. Practice using them in sentences about your daily life, like I am in my room, or the keys are on the shelf. Soon, it'll feel natural. At versus in. Now, let's zoom in a bit more on two prepositions that often confuse learners: at and in. Knowing the difference between these two can make your sentences feel much clearer. 1. We use it when we talk about a specific point or place. Imagine you're at a party, at the bus stop, or at school. Think of it as a pinpointed location. 2. In is for more general or enclosed spaces, like being in a city, in a country, or in a room. So, if I say, she is at the library, I'm picturing her at a specific location. But if I say, she is in the library, I'm imagining her inside that building. It's subtle, but it really does make a difference. In versus. On versus. At. Now that you're getting comfortable with at and in, let's add one more into the mix: on. It's one of the most common prepositions in English, and here's how it differs from the others. 1. Use in when talking about something that surrounds you or encloses you. For example, she is in New York, I'm in my room, or he lives in Europe. 2. Use on when talking about surfaces. Picture something resting or connected to a surface, like the book is on the table or he's on the bus. We say on the bus because you're on a surface that transports you. 3. Use it for specific locations or events. She's at the office, or they're at a concert. Try making a few sentences with each of these to get a feel for the difference. For example, you could say, I'm in New York, staying at a hotel on Fifth Avenue. Mixing them helps you practice how they work together. To versus than. Let's start with the difference between to and than. These are two very simple words, but their meanings are quite different. 1. To is usually about direction or moving towards something. For example, I'm going to the store, or she gave the book to her friend. 2. Than is used for comparisons. For instance, if you're comparing two things, you might say, my house is bigger than yours, or he's taller than his brother. To remember this, think about to as leading towards something, and then as comparing two things. So next time you use them, ask yourself, am I moving towards something, or am I comparing? This will help you choose the right word. In versus into. Now, let's talk about in and into, which might seem similar, but have a key difference. 1. In is more about the location of something. If I say, the keys are in the drawer, I mean they're located there. 2. Into implies movement or change. For example, she put the keys into the drawer, meaning she moved the keys from somewhere else and placed them inside. So, if you're just describing where something is, use in. If you're describing where something goes, use into. Try making some sentences with these, like, I put my shoes into the closet, or the water is in the glass. This will make it much easier to remember. 4 versus. Since. Now let's talk about for and since, two words that often come up when talking about time. 1. For is used when you're talking about a duration of time, like a number of hours, days, or years. You might say, I've lived here for 5 years, or she studied for 2 hours. 2. Since is used when talking about a specific starting point in time. So you could say, I've lived here since 2018, or she's been waiting since 3 p.m. Remember, for is about how long something lasts, and since tells us when it started. A good trick is to use for with periods of time and since with specific dates or times. This small change makes your English sound so much clearer. Agree with versus agree to. Let's start with something we use often in conversations, agree with and agree to. These sound similar, but they mean slightly different things. 1. Agree with is for opinions or people. For example, if you share someone's opinion, you'd say, I agree with you. You could also say, I agree with her idea. 2. Agree to is for plans or suggestions. If you accept an invitation or a plan, you'd say, I agree to the plan, or I agree to meet at 5 p.m. So, think about it this way, if it's about a person or an idea, use agree with. If it's about accepting something specific, use agree to. Try making a few sentences to practice. Like I agree with you about the movie, and I agree to go to dinner at 7 p.m. When to use to. Now, let's talk about when to use to. This word is incredibly common in English and has a few key uses that are helpful to remember. 1. We use to for directions or destinations. For example, I'm going to the park, or he moved to a new city. 2. To also connects verbs to actions. For example, I like to swim, or she wants to learn. 3. Used to when expressing purpose, like I'm here to help. A quick trick is to remember to is like an arrow, it connects ideas, actions, or points to each other. So when you want to show a direction or purpose, think of to. Try saying sentences like, I came here to study, or she wants to succeed. With practice, this will feel natural. When to use for. Now let's look at for, which is also very common and useful. Here are the main situations when you'll use for. 1. Use for to talk about reasons or benefits. For example, this book is for beginners, or this gift is for my friend. 2. For is also used for durations of time, like we discussed earlier. For example, I studied for 2 hours. 3. We also use for to describe support or favoring something. For example, I am for better education, or he voted for the new policy. So, think of for when you want to talk about purpose, benefits, or time. Practice with sentences like, I bought this for you, or this is for learning English. Remember, for is often about who benefits from something or how long it happens. To versus. 4. Now, let's compare to and for directly, since these are often confused. 1. Use to when you're describing a direction, movement, or purpose. For example, I am going to school, or I need to study. 2. Use for when you're talking about reasons, benefits, or duration. For instance, I'm here for the meeting, or I stayed for 2 hours. Think of it like this: to shows the destination or purpose, while for is about the reason or benefit. For example, I came to learn English versus I'm here for English practice. It's a small difference, but it makes a big impact. Basic grammar, parts of speech. Let's start with something simple but powerful: parts of speech. These are the different types of words we use to build sentences. Imagine each part of speech as a role in a play. Each word has a special job that helps the sentence make sense. Let's go over a few of the most common parts. 1. Nouns are names for things, people, places, or ideas. For example, dog, city, love. 2. Verbs show actions or states of being. For example, run, is, have. 3. Adjectives describe nouns, telling us more about them. For example, big, blue, happy. 4. Adverbs describe verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs, telling us more about how something happens. For example, quickly, very, well. 5. Pronouns replace nouns to avoid repetition. For example, he, she, they. 6. Prepositions show relationships in time, space, or direction. For example, in, on, at. 7. Conjunctions connect words, phrases, or clauses. For example, and, but, or. Each of these parts of speech plays a role in the sentence to make it complete and clear. Understanding these roles helps you understand why sentences are structured the way they are. Try identifying parts of speech in sentences you hear or read. It's a great way to practice. 1 resource to learn grammar. Now, if you're wondering where to find a resource that covers all of these grammar basics, I have a suggestion for you. One great resource for learning English grammar is the book Essential Grammar in Use by Raymond Murphy. This book is simple, with exercises that are perfect for beginners. And it covers topics like parts of speech, verb tenses, and sentence structure. Another option is to use online resources like Duolingo or BBC Learning English. They both offer easy-to-understand lessons and practice exercises that let you learn at your own pace. Pick a resource that feels right for you, and try to dedicate a little time each day to practice. Even just a few minutes each day makes a difference. Basic tenses. Now, let's explore basic tenses in English, which help you express when something happens. We'll focus on 3 tenses that are most commonly used in conversation: present, past, and future. 1. Present tense describes what is happening now. For example, I walk or she reads. This tense is used for things happening at the current moment or for general truths, like the sun rises in the east. 2. Past tense tells us what happened before now. For example, I walked or she read. Use this tense to describe completed actions in the past, like, I visited my friend yesterday. 3. Future tense is for what will happen later. For example, I will walk or she will read. Use this to talk about actions that haven't happened yet, like, I will go to the store tomorrow. Each tense has a simple form, and it's used a lot in everyday conversation. Mastering these 3 will allow you to communicate clearly about things that happened, are happening, or will happen. Word order. English follows a specific order for words in a sentence. When we stick to this order, sentences are clear and make sense. Here's the basic structure. 1. Subject plus verb plus object. For example, I subject eat verb pizza object. Let's break this down a bit. The subject is who or what is doing the action. In our example, it's I. The verb is the action itself, like eat. The object is who or what receives the action. In our case, it's pizza. So, in sentences, you'll usually start with the subject, then the verb, and finally the object. Here are a few more examples. She subject loves verb music object. They subject play verb soccer object. Once you get the basic structure down, you can add more information, like where, when, or how something happens. For example, she subject eats verb pizza object on Friday's time. With practice, this will become second nature. Tense is present perfect. Now, let's introduce the present perfect tense, which can be a little tricky at first. But it's very useful for talking about experiences and things that have happened at some point in the past. 1. Present perfect structure. Have / has plus past participle of the verb. For example, I have eaten breakfast. She has visited New York. 2. When to use the present perfect. When talking about experiences at an indefinite time in the past, I have traveled to Japan. For actions that started in the past and are still true now, they have lived here for 5 years. 3. Examples. I have seen that movie sometime in my life. She has finished her homework, the homework is done now. They have been friends since childhood, they are still friends. The present perfect is different from the past tense because it doesn't focus on when the action happened. It focuses on the fact that it happened. Try making a few sentences about your own life. For example, I have learned English, or we have met before. The more you use it, the more natural it will feel. Past continuous. The past continuous tense is used to talk about actions that were ongoing in the past. Imagine you were in the middle of doing something, and then something else happened. Here's how it works. 1. Structure. With / were plus verb ing, the ing form of the verb. I was reading, or they were eating. 2. When to use the past continuous. To describe an action that was happening at a specific moment in the past, I was reading at 8 p.m. To show an action that was interrupted by another action, I was cooking when the phone rang. 3. Examples. He was walking to school when it started raining. They were watching a movie at 9 p.m. last night. I was studying when my friend called. By using the past continuous, you can describe scenes and situations that were happening at a certain time in the past. This tense adds more detail, making your stories come alive. Future simple. Next, let's look at the future simple tense, which is great for talking about actions or events that will happen in the future. 1. Structure. Will plus base form of the verb. I will go, she will call, or they will arrive. 2. When to use the future simple. For actions or events that will happen later, I will call you tomorrow. For promises, offers, or decisions made at the moment of speaking, I'll help you with that. 3. Examples. He will visit his grandmother next week. We will start the project tomorrow. They will come to the party on Saturday. The future simple tense is straightforward and super useful. When you want to talk about future plans or promises, this is your go-to tense. Try saying a few sentences about what you'll do tomorrow, next week, or even next year. Present continuous. The present continuous tense is used for actions happening right now, or around this time. It's a great way to describe what you or others are doing at the moment. 1. Structure. M/is/are plus verb ing, the ing form of the verb. I am working, she is studying, they are playing. 2. When to use the present continuous. For actions happening at the exact moment of speaking, I am talking to you now. For actions happening around the current time, but not necessarily this moment, she is studying for her exams. 3. Examples. I am reading a new book. They are having dinner right now. We are learning English together. The present continuous is perfect for discussing current actions and activities. Practice using it by describing what's happening around you or things people are doing right now. Present perfect continuous. Now, let's look at the present perfect continuous. This tense is great for describing actions that started in the past and are still happening or just recently stopped. 1. Structure. Have/has been plus verb ing. I have been working, she has been studying, they have been playing. 2. When to use the present perfect continuous. For actions that started in the past and are still happening, I have been studying English for 2 months. For actions that just stopped, but we see the result, she has been running, and now she's tired. 3. Examples. I have been working here since June. They have been practicing for the concert all day. We have been learning English together since last month. This tense helps you talk about how long something has been going on. It's especially useful for expressing actions that feel connected to the present moment. Try a few sentences about things you've been doing recently, like, I have been learning English, or we have been working hard on this project. Past perfect. The past perfect tense is used to talk about something that happened before another action in the past. This tense helps you set up a sequence of events, allowing you to be more specific about when things happened. 1. Structure. Had plus past participle of the verb. I had finished, she had left, they had arrived. 2. When to use the past perfect. To describe an action that happened before another past action, I had eaten before I left the house. To give background information or explain a sequence, they had finished the project before the deadline. 3. Examples. He had already left when I called him. They had studied hard before taking the test. We had never met before that day. The past perfect helps you create a timeline for past events, making your stories clear and detailed. Try practicing by thinking of situations where something happened before another action. If clauses. Conditional sentences. If clauses, also known as conditional sentences, are a way to talk about situations that depend on certain conditions. There are a few types of conditional sentences, but let's start with the basics. 1. Zero conditional, used for facts or things that are always true when something happens. Structure. If plus present simple, present simple. Example. If water freezes, it becomes ice. 2. First conditional, used for real situations that are possible in the future. Structure. If plus present simple, will plus base form of the verb. Example. If it rains tomorrow, I will stay home. 3. Second conditional, used for imaginary or unlikely situations in the present or future. Structure. If plus past simple, would plus base form of the verb. Example. If I won the lottery, I would travel the world. 4. Third conditional, used for imagining past situations that didn't actually happen. Structure. If plus past perfect, would have plus past participle. Example, if I had studied, I would have passed the test. Each type of conditional sentence lets you talk about different kinds of possibilities. Try creating some examples that reflect real, possible, or imaginary situations. For instance, if I have time, I will call you, or if I were a bird, I would fly around the world. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to use conditionals naturally. Modal verbs. Modal verbs are special verbs that express things like ability, possibility, permission, and necessity. They add meaning to the main verb in a sentence. Here's a quick look at some common modal verbs and how to use them. 1. Can to show ability or possibility. I can swim. Ability. It can rain tomorrow. Possibility. 2. Could to talk about past ability or polite requests. I could run fast when I was younger. Past ability. Could you help me, please? Polite request. 3. May to ask or give permission. May I leave the room? Asking permission. 4. Might to talk about possibility. We might go to the beach tomorrow. 5. Must to show necessity or obligation. You must wear a seatbelt. 6. Should to give advice or suggestion. You should drink more water. Each modal verb has its own meaning and function. Try using them to talk about your abilities. Things you might do, or giving advice. For example, I can play the guitar. You should try this new book, or we might visit our friends. With practice, you'll feel more confident using modals. Passive voice. Now let's explore the passive voice, which lets you focus on the action rather than who did it. In English, we use the passive voice when the focus is on the result or the action, not necessarily on who performs the action. 1. Structure, to be plus past participle. The cake was baked. We don't know or need to say who baked it. 2. When to use the passive voice. When the person who did the action is unknown or unimportant, the window was broken. When the focus is more on the action or result, the book was published last year. 3. Examples. The letters are sent every day. The house was built in 1900. The movie was watched by millions. In passive sentences, the person who performs the action can be added with by, but it's not always necessary. For instance, the song was written by the artist, or simply, the song was written. The passive voice is especially helpful when you want to be formal, or when the action is more important than the performer. Articles a, and, the. Articles are small words we use to show if something is specific or general. In English, we have three main articles, a, an, and the. Let's see when to use each one. 1. A and an. These are called indefinite articles. They refer to any one of something, not something specific. Use a before words that start with a consonant sound, a cat, a book. Use them before words that start with a vowel sound, an apple, an hour. Examples. I have a car. One of many possible cars. She saw an L. One of many possible L's. 2. The this is the definite article. Use it to refer to a specific thing that both you and the listener know about. The sun is shining. The only sun we know. Please hand me the book. A specific book, not any book. Examples. The car is outside. A specific car. She ate the apple on the table. A specific apple, not just any apple. understanding when to use a, an, and that helps your listener understand if you're talking about something specific or general. Practice using these articles with objects around you. For example, I have a pen, please pass me the salt, or she bought an orange. With practice, you'll feel more comfortable choosing the right article. Relative clauses. Now let's talk about relative clauses, which allow you to give more information about a noun. They help you connect ideas, so your sentences sound smooth and detailed. 1. Defining relative clauses. These give essential information about the noun. Without this information, the sentence wouldn't be complete. Use who for people. The person who called you is my friend. Use which for things. The car which is parked outside is mine. Use that for people or things in informal English. The book that you gave me was great. Examples. The man who works at the store is very friendly. The dog which barked all night is my neighbor's. The car that he drives is very fast. 2. Non-defining relative clauses. These add extra information about a noun but aren't essential to the sentence's meaning. We separate them with commas. My sister, who lives in New York, is visiting next week. Paris, which is the capital of France, is beautiful in spring. Examples. My teacher, who loves reading, recommended a great book. The restaurant, which opened last year, has amazing food. Defining and non-defining relative clauses let you add details without starting a new sentence. For example, instead of saying, I have a friend. He is very funny, you can say, I have a friend who is very funny. It's a great way to connect ideas. You're doing fantastic. Articles and relative clauses might seem small, but they make a big difference. They help you speak more naturally and make your sentences easier to understand. I hope this lesson has helped you. Remember, if you have any questions, you can comment below, and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you had fun learning and practicing with me. If you enjoyed this lesson, leave a like and share it with your friends. I'll be back soon with more lessons, so don't forget to subscribe. See you next time and keep practicing until you truly become fluent in English. Bye for now.